and then they were like, well, the pantry's not big enough and I don't need this. And I can hear the pickleball bad noise. And I was like, okay, they want it more quiet. They want a backyard. He's a gardener, da, 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 all the things. And once I started just listening and saying, okay, well, maybe we could bust through this pantry and go straight to the dining room. And I would just listen. And so after about the second hour, once they figured out that it was all about them, I noticed in the more expensive home, the husband pulled back a little bit and he got quiet, and for several reasons. And so I did not push that house because I felt like that was a budgetary issue, but I was going to let him tell me that later. So it came up several times driving, the half hour back in the car, like, didn't you like that house? And I was just waiting. I was just waiting for him to say whatever was on his mind, because I was not going to bring it up. I was going to let him bring it up.
Welcome back to Time-Tested Mastery Life Lesson Sell. Today I'm talking with Kim Costa, a top producing realtor with Sotheby's International Realty, serving the luxury markets of Milton, Roswell, and Alpharetta, Georgia. Kim brings over 30 years of experience in real estate, construction, design, business, and relationship-based selling. But what makes this conversation especially valuable is not just what she has sold, it is how she has built trust, created her own category, and turned hard life lessons into a method that helps people make better decisions. Kim is the creator of the Wheelhouse Method, a lifestyle-based approach that helps clients look beyond bedrooms, bathrooms, and square footage and ask a deeper question. Does this home actually support the life I want to live? That fits perfectly with what we teach here. Truth follows trust, and confidence does not come from pretending to have all the answers. Confidence comes from preparation, clarity, and control. So today we're going to talk about sales training, niche building, luxury real estate, personal reinvention, and the story behind the moment Kim said no to Oprah, and why that decision changed everything. Kim, welcome to Time-Tested Mastery. Tell us a little bit about your beginning when you started back in 1988 at Xerox, and talk a little bit about how that formal sales training has helped you in your career.
Well, yes. So 1988, I graduated from University of Georgia from their sales and marketing program in the business administration. And I remember, so my parents were both human resource executives, and they were always big on training and, fulfilling the potential of the people. So when I went into sales and got the coveted Xerox position where they trained you for 6 months and taught you, spent, I think, something like $60,000 or $80,000 back in the day to train me, I really paid attention. And the thing I learned the most when I went up to Leesburg for the extensive in-house training was, you are solving problems for the client. What are the client's pain points? And it's not about how big the copier was, or whatever it was you were selling. It was what needs are not being met by their current situation. And that was the whole point of, it's not about you. It's not about the commission or the paycheck or whatever. You have to figure out how to make the client happy. And so that has been my takeaway for 40 years now, almost to really, I know, ouch, right? So, so to really focus on the client, that was the huge takeaway. So now it's not copiers, it's homes. Like what in your current living situation is not working for you? And, back then there were different categories, but for someone in a home, I have 8 categories where their home might not be working for them and the reasons why they're moving. So there might be 1 or 2 main reasons, but let's go through all 8 areas to make sure we fulfill as many needs as possible.
Well, I sort of laughed with the 40-year thing because it's 40 years for me in real estate. I started when I was a kid. I was 21. I did not get the coveted Xerox training program, I was actually trained by a New York life insurance company. So I did get a little bit of formal sales training,
Mm.
which I think is pretty abnormal for the real estate industry.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you started with Xerox. Did you think that you were going to be a real estate agent, or did you ever have any dreams of that before you started selling?
I always loved homes. I used to drive down this pretty drive called Spalding Drive that was near me as it was in high school. And if I just would drive down the road and dream about these luxury properties that like they
Mm.
banked the river and it was just a winding tree lined road. And I just thought I just dreamed about who lived there and how their lifestyles and all that kind of thing. So that's always been an interest of mine. Um, the home and the lifestyle and like people really living a good life from a beautiful home. And so I've always had that interest. I did get sidelined into the residential construction industry.
Okay.
I built about with my former spouse about at least 1,500 luxury swimming pools here in Atlanta. And
Okay.
so I got to see all of those homes along the way and met the people living in them and how they were trying to improve the home that they were living in. So I was in the right industry, but in the wrong position
Mm.
because I was in finance.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, so I was stuck in an office crunching numbers, and I really wanted to be with the people and the pretty things.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
pretty. So you started out with some formal sales training, were sort of aligned with the real estate industry, but from the financial part of it, and you wanted to spend more time with people.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
And so
I
how
yeah.
did you make that transition from that into the brokerage or the salesperson category?
Well, I finally got to the point. So I went into the finance area only because we needed someone to do all the numbers in the business. As you know,
Okay.
we needed someone to do that, and I had some training in that. So I said, I can do it. I'll do it. And so 25 years later, I finally said, I am so tired. I was getting a master's in accounting and was working in a different sector of finance in a luxury design company down at the Atlanta Smart. And my head hurt. My head just hurt. And I took a personality
Mm.
test and come to find out I am not a left brain person. I'm a right brain person. So that means you're not as linear thinking, you're more people oriented and creative. And so
Wow.
and my kids were getting into college and I didn't need to have insurance for them anymore and a corporate job ish. So I said, I'm going to do what I've always wanted to do. I'm going to become a realtor. So I started studying in 2017, got my license, studying in 2016, got my license in 17, resigned from the design company I was working for,
Mm.
and went right into real estate. And I have never looked back. I 4X'd
Wow.
my income. I feel like I'm working in my wheelhouse. And I really strongly believe as a person, you need to understand how you're made and fit that to the job you do and the house you live in.
That's awesome. That's
Mm,
awesome. Well, from everything that I've seen and read about you, and I can tell also by just talking with you, is that you're very relationship based.
mm.
And I know that you work in a luxury real estate market. What does that look like practically in the way that you operate your business?
Well, I work with first time home buyers as well as I'm working with a family that's buying a family compound. So, seven figure, multiple
Mm.
acreage with multiple homes. And so from first time buyers, lovely. I mean, we're going to have a baby and like it warms my heart. So, in my area, a starter home is, gosh, I mean, if you could find one for 600,000, you're very lucky. And so, but love that getting people started on the right track and really listening to, okay, what does the next 5 or 10 years look like for you? Not just because they don't know, they haven't been through life yet. But we need to prepare for what are you going to do next? Are you getting a dog? Do you need to live near grandparents for when you're having children? Do you need two offices at home? Does Does one of you have a third car? Where are you going to put that? Do you enjoy tennis? What do you like to do for fun? So the relationship becomes the key part of discovery for me. I just listen to, first of all, what are their pain points? And second of all, what would the ideal life look like? Because we're trying to up level them on Maslow's hierarchy in 8 areas. So it's from physiological and safety needs, which are like, you're probably moving if you have those, but up to like, what is your favorite paint color? What colors look good? That's way at the top.
It's interesting that you share those questions, and over the 40 years that I've been in, my professional career, when I first started, they talked a lot about having open-ended questions to where, the salesperson talks 20% of the time so that the client can talk 80% of the time. And I think you probably still believe that, but your questions are a lot less open, or at least what you just shared with me. And they're designed almost in a way to get people think about the needs that they don't even know that they have yet. And I think that's brilliant.
Yes, absolutely. Like, why are you, when you walk in your home, why are you feeling frustrated? Or why are you sad? Or why are you lonely? Like the kids went off to college. It's all about pinpointing and clarifying their specific needs, and then categorizing them into 8 different areas to say, oh gosh, your career is a 2 out of 10. You need 2 offices and you're working at the kitchen counter. Like, so it gets very specific into what exactly are the pain points. But honestly, I just went out with some clients for 3 hours. The second time they're coming in from out of town. So I really listen to, we need an extra garage because we want a golf cart, and we want to be in a certain age range. They're retired. We need to be close to our daughter. So I just really, I was driving, so I couldn't write it all down, but I just kind of let them talk. And then I brought them through a couple of houses as an example. And it was like, gosh, I don't need a formal living room. And I was like, noted, we don't like formal spaces. And so it's just like, you listen and you write down and you categorize and you develop a picture in your head of what they want, not like what you think they should have, what they want.
So you were sharing that you were showing property. Did you have the clients physically with you in the cars you were driving and touring the properties?
Did, which was it's unusual these days.
Okay.
Yeah, for my area.
And I was going to ask that because when I started and it ended at COVID. I mean, COVID is when it ended.
Yep.
But from 1986, when I started selling real estate through COVID, the best part of the job was the conversations that I had with clients to and from the different houses.
Yes.
And you had that opportunity with the clients that you're talking about today. I wish everybody still had that opportunity, because it's harder when you don't have that amount of time with them for them to be natural.
That's right. And the conversations they have between the two of them, if there's more than one decision maker. I mean, a lot of times I just kind of not follow along or walk along with my little notebook, my portfolio, and I'll occasionally write something down to remember, and but the conversations between the two people are wonderful. And then sometimes you get to interject a little, but in the car it's much easier because there's some dead space, and then you just bring up, like, oh, well, tell me more about that, or you bring up another subject because I'm thinking of the 8 categories, but I'm turning it into a conversation with them that, look, what did I say today? Oh, where do you like to shop? Are you here is Publix, Kroger, Whole Foods, Trader Joe's. And so when we passed a Publix, they were like, that's right there. That's so awesome. And I was like, okay. Yeah. So you just you listen, and then you ask probing questions that are less about how many bedrooms do you need and what's your budget, because those are basic. It's more about what excites you.
Yeah, you're going much deeper. So one of the things that I really work on with salespeople that I'm talking to is, I think a lot of people, their expectation of a salesperson is the caricature that they see on TV, the fast talking, pushy kind of person. And obviously you're not doing that. And I'm trying to teach people not to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things I've learned is that it's very hard, at least there is a moment where people don't trust you. They're testing you at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So, what does that look like for you? How do you know when you've got open and clear communication with somebody? Is there body language? Is there a process that you use?
Well, I am very in tune with the kinetic part. I can tell oftentimes when someone doesn't like a home, they close up and they shut down. But at first, many, many times there is a wariness of like, is she in this for her or is she in this for us? And there, sometimes you'll say something like, listen, I mean, so I showed them a 7-figure home and I was like, I'm not sure if this is in your price range. It was previously, but I know we've had some changes. Let's look at it. You tell me what you like and you don't like about it. But I started off with 2 much lower price ranged homes in the same neighborhood, it's big neighborhood. And I just said, well, what do you just to get a feel for. Okay, and then they were like, well, the pantry's not big enough and I don't need this. And I can hear the pickleball bad noise. And I was like, okay, they want it more quiet. They want a backyard. He's a gardener, da, 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 all the things. And once I started just listening and saying, okay, well, maybe we could bust through this pantry and go straight to the dining room. And I would just listen. And so after about the second hour, once they figured out that it was all about them, so I noticed in the more expensive home, the husband pulled back a little bit and he got quiet. And, for several reasons. And so I did not push that house because I felt like that was a budgetary issue, but I was going to let him tell me that later. So it came up several times driving, the half hour back in the car, like, didn't you like that house? And I was just waiting. I was just waiting for him to say whatever was on his mind because I was not going to bring it up. I was going to let him bring it up.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think it is so important. I am trying to share with people that you cannot really sell and influence. And I think selling is influencing thought. You cannot really influence and help people until they trust you enough to tell the truth. And so you're certainly demonstrating that. You mentioned kinetic energy, I think, which is body language or, what's coming off of them. So that's great. Now, I know you have a formal process called the wheelhouse method. Share with the audience in sort of language that, would be easy for them to understand what it is and how you came across it.
Okay. So it is an 8-step process. So the Wheel of Life is a coaching tool that people use. And once I was switching careers and I got my personality test back, I hired a coach to say, do you think I'm really cut out for this realtor thing? And let's make sure before I jump from a 25-year career into something different that I think I'm going to be good at, but you tell me. Yeah. And so anyway, he got me to go around the Wheel of Life to judge which areas in my life needed fixing because I wasn't happy in some certain areas. And so once I started doing that, I found myself moving to fix some of these things. And then when I became a real estate agent, I started categorizing my clients in, this is a career finance move. This person got a promotion. He and his family can now afford a bigger home with a pool. And, it has to be in a certain area, close to his work, whatever. And then another one might be a health, family and friends. Because an older person with failing health needs to be closer to family and a hospital and doctors and all of that thing. So that's where the 8 areas came about. And the 8 areas are finance, health, entertainment, career, environment, romance, family, and friends. And so of those 8 areas, there are questions in my book based on Maslow's hierarchy from physiological needs like, can you sleep at night? To esteem, like, do you like your neighborhood? Do you feel like your home fits in the neighborhood? Are you proud of your home? And then aesthetics, does it have good curb appeal, etc. So you go through each of those 8 areas to determine, and I just gave 2 books to these folks, one for them and one for their daughter who they're staying with. So that's impressive, right? To have written a book. It's sort of my philosophy. And I said, here's the book, sign a nice thing to them. Let's find your wheelhouse specifically for you. And I said, just read through the middle section. Maybe there'll be some tidbits there to help y'all hone in on your ideal next home. And so we just try to up level the pain points, but also the unseen needs, like you unseen and maybe felt unconsciously, but not vocalized yet. And so once you put those answers down on paper, you cannot unsee them. And when when you truly take an interest, they feel seen and recognized, and then you become the hero in their story.
Yeah. I don't know if you've heard this before, but I think it is brilliant that you took something from another area that worked in your life and is powerful for creating change in other people, because when they're buying or selling a home, there's significant change taking place, and you basically adopted something that you found somewhere else and adapted it to help you service your clients. That's a great way to operate your business.
Yeah. And it's so funny. I'm not even sure. I know when the light bulb moment was. I was because I wasn't doing accounting anymore and I was writing, I took a trip to Spain with some other writers and met over there. And I developed the system over there when I had some downtime because my brain could really think about it. And so I really, the first time I ever drew the circle, the wheel of life, was landing in Paris on my way back home from Spain. And I snapped a little photo, and it was 2018, November. And that was the beginning of the whole process. Yeah.
Yeah. So did you write the book thinking that it would be a tool that you would provide your clients to help them in the decision-making process to make their move smoother?
Yeah.
Or did you design it so that you could help other people within the industry get better at their business?
At first, I wrote it for the people moving, buying and selling, or renovating. And then as I wrote it, I thought, I know a lot of really good real estate agents that are client focused that could hand this book to somebody, let them take the assessment, and then it would eliminate 8 hours or so of unnecessary looking. And it's very client based. And in the book, it's like, talk to your real estate agent, talk to an expert, so I have enough business here locally. I cannot handle anymore. Like, I'm not looking for really more local clients. I'm pretty full and happy. However, if I can help other agents present a process that helps their clients and makes them look like the hero, and also change the perception in our industry that we're just walking like a selling sunset, and we're showing up in a sports car with high heels, to make some money. I'm being facetious. I don't really think many of us are there. There's a few, and then there's a few, and then there's some unprofessional folks that they're just looking to make some side money, and maybe they're not as trained as they should be.
Yeah. Awesome. So a couple of things I wanted to ask you. Give one example of a real life question that is in the circle, and how a client identified their need and how that helped you to help them get what they were after.
Sure. I have a book right here, but I have so many, like I could open a page right now and there'll be, 8, 10, 20 on a page. So I tried not to leave any stones unturned, but I also didn't want it to be overwhelming. But so let's see, how about this one? Let's focus on family and friends. Here's some questions from that area. Will you be adding to the family anytime soon? Either a baby, adoption, do you have a boomerang child coming back from college? So, or a parent who's aging, and perhaps you need a space for them to go. I see that a lot. And or are you thinking about getting a dog or two? I have a sister-in-law who says 3 dogs, 10 chickens, 3 goats, and so she now has a farm, right? Because I know that's her. And my brother loves to fix things up, so they've got an old barn, and that's their wheelhouse. So, family and friends, it's, do you like to entertain? Are you an extrovert? Do you need a big
Mm.
kitchen? Um, the folks I had today, they really are craving some community. That they're both retired. They want to play golf, mahjong, pickleball, cooking club, book club. They want all those things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Awesome. So obviously anybody that gets the book can go through there and find the questions that will work in their particular market.
Hmm.
If they adopt it, at least they can learn the idea and the philosophy. And if their market is a little bit different, I come from 40 years in a resort market. So
Yeah.
there would be obviously some adapted questions that would come
Second
from that.
homes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Awesome.
Hmm.
So I want to switch gears a little bit because I know you have a story about a famous person and telling that person no.
Yeah.
And the famous person is Oprah Winfrey. Tell the story about how you got to speak with her, or have the opportunity to speak with her, and that you declined.
Mm. Yes. And, I still say, who does that? Like, what was I thinking? Well, I know what I was thinking. When so I lived on a gorgeous farm called Clarity Farm, very serendipitous name. And those are my two favorite words, clarity and serendipity. And I think if you slow down and listen, those two things can be very helpful. So, at Clarity Farm, I was riding horses. I'm actually a golfer, and I have no business being on a horse. I love them. I think they're beautiful. Great Kentucky Derby this year. And, but I am not a great rider. So I fell off and broke my back at this beautiful
Ooh.
farm. And as I went and have got some titanium put in there to put it all back into place. And the doctor, as I was leaving, put a hand on my legs and said, "I don't know why you're walking, or I don't know why you're going to be able to walk," because I was shuffling in a walker, "but you must have an angel on your shoulder." And I was like, wow, I have got a second chance here. I need to make sure I'm living my life right. And so I went back to the farm. It was very remote. And I started writing, and I wrote to the Oprah Winfrey Show, an essay contest, and won the essay contest. So again, getting back to myself, not the accounting, but the writer, the creative person.
Right.
I'm half introvert, half extrovert. So just, really listening to my soul as I was healing, like what should my life look like? I have another chance here. Well, so I win the contest. They call me, and I said, "Oh my gosh, that's great." And they said, "Okay, you and your friends that you wrote about, come on out to Chicago." So perfect. I'm going to call on my friends. We're coming in May, all these things. And so they called me back and I said, "Well, I better start reading the book." And so anyway, I started reading the book, and they called me back about a week later and said, "Listen, we want to come film at your farm." And I had a broken back, and it was a 40-acre farm. And I was like, I can't get ready. And like, I don't need several million people I can barely walk to the kitchen right now. So I said, "No, I'm sorry. I can't do it. You just can't come." And so, so that was kind of like, she was my hero. I mean, truly, she was like, live your best life. I mean, I went home every day after picking up my kids and watched her live your best life on the Oprah Winfrey Show. And that's why, I mean, it really resonated with me. But I just was not in a place where my life looked anything like this beautiful home that I was living in. And so I was like, I'm not feeling this. I'm not feeling this. And I'm so not feeling this that I can't have cameras in here picking up on how misaligned and in pain I am.
Yeah.
So I said no.
Yeah. That's pretty powerful. And as we were talking a little bit before we started the interview today, I mean, I mentioned to you that the only kind of person that would say no to that opportunity is one that knows who they are and knows what they want and is willing to follow what's going on in the interior. So I applaud you for that. There's a lot of people that would have said, "I'm going to do it anyway," and they would have been miserable through the whole process.
Totally
And that's
miserable.
not how life works. Yeah.
And in pain and like on painkillers and and my house wouldn't have looked the way I wanted it to. And no.
Yeah. Well, good for you.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing a lot of creativity. And one of the things that I know from our business today is that there's a lot of people trying to copy everyone else. They're trying to find the winning formula that somebody else is doing, and they're going to copy the winning formula that somebody else is doing. And in my mind, all that does is it dilutes the brilliance of another person and
Mhm,
doesn't create any separation for you. So you talk about niche marketing and creating your own category.
mhm.
Talk a little bit about how to do that.
Well, I mean, because I know I'm creative and a people person and am empathetic and intuitive, and I have a design eye, but I also have a construction background and a numbers background, which don't always go together. The
Right, right.
mechanical and the logical, along with the creativity. I have tailored the way I present myself with those features. Like I have two comparative market analysis on my kitchen counter right now that I've presented recently, and I'm very good at that. However, in my notes, it's like it's all about what the home's personality is like. How updated is it? Does it certain? Is it going to fit certain people? So like I get fitting people to homes and homes to people. That's my strong suit. Now I have a fella in my office who is amazing at contracts and amazing at numbers and amazing at mechanical things in the home. That is his wheelhouse. So
Mm.
he has closing socks that have like it's just I wouldn't ever wear closing socks. Like I'm just going to be kind of like a soft material and like very in tune with the people and like a little more like approachable and extroverted feeling person where he's going to be a thinker, right? And so
Mm.
he needs to tailor his approach on his strengths, which are he's like, with the Georgia Association of Realtors, he helps with their contracts. That's a huge selling point. He knows those
Yeah.
contracts. I call him if I mean, I know contracts because I used to, review them all as I had clients. I had to, so I'm good at them, but he's amazing. Like
Yeah.
he's he's a genius at it. So I'm
Yeah.
a genius at seeing people's potential and
Okay.
seeing a home's potential and matching them and foreseeing problems potentially and coming up with options. So I mean, I think that as a salesperson in any industry, but specifically real estate, you have to find your people and then recognize who they are. I know we have the DISC assessment and things like that. So,
Mm.
do you have a numbers person? The fella I was with today, I think he's more of a numbers person. And I think his wife is like community. She's about community. So,
Mm.
she's probably a peace person or a party person, one of those. So, you have to know who you're working with.
I think that is wonderful. What I'm hearing from you is that you really make a connection to the way that people want to live,
Hmm.
the way that they feel, and rather than sell bedrooms, baths, and square footage, you're selling a home that allows them to be who they've shared with you that they want to be. And I think that's pretty
That's right.
brilliant.
That's
Yeah.
right. And it always involves life change. Always.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. And it takes a little bit more than just waiting for people to say, I want to see this house or I want to see that house, that
Yeah.
kind of thing. Um, so there's one last thing I wanted to ask you about. One of the phrases that I heard was branding while you sleep.
Mm.
Talk a little bit about how you apply that, or how people can apply that to their business.
So, I mean, you are your company's brand usually, unless you have your own brokerage, right? So there's a little bit of
Hmm.
that. You have to align with that. But branding while you sleep is almost like you have to be in alignment because, in other words, it has to come naturally. Like you could do it in your sleep. You could, it's like riding a bike once you learn how to do it, but you have to learn who you are. And so you're not trying to be somebody else. Like I'm not trying to be selling sunset. I do have a nice German car. It's not a Lamborghini. I probably wouldn't want one. My back wouldn't take it, right? But I also I mean, I wake up as me. I go to bed as me. I dream as me. I'll sometimes wake up in the middle of the night with an aha moment because all the things I've been thinking about during the day, it's like it's input, input, input. And sometimes as I sleep or when I wake up in the morning, I then have processed everything and solutions come to me because I've taken some quiet time to align with myself, have my cup of coffee, get out my
Right.
planner, see what questions and follow up I need to not only what questions and follow up I need to do that day, but what did I do yesterday? And after I process the day, what conclusions have come to me to help my people?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, that,
I love yeah, I
yeah,
love sleeping on things too, because you
yeah,
never know when you sleep on things how many puzzle pieces will come in together
yeah,
serendipitously, as I think is probably the way
good
you
word.
would describe it.
Yeah, or
Awesome.
on a walk,
Mm.
like a walking meditation, I call them. Sometimes you just process, and since you're not looking at your stuff, solutions come up. But honestly, sleep on it is one thing, but also to play on that is like, let me sleep on it, let my brain work behind the scenes on this problem. But also, like, you could do it in your sleep. Does it come naturally to
Mm.
you? I know there's some things you have to do that are an effort, but you can either farm that out to somebody um, that can do a CMA for you or process a contract or paperwork or show a home or whatever it is. And then you concentrate on your strengths.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, it has been a pleasure. I'd like for you to finish up with three things.
Mhm.
One is, what would you tell a new person that you learned early in your career
Mm.
that was true then and is true now? That's first one. Second thing would be for somebody that's been in the business right now that is doing okay
Mhm.
but wants to level up. What should they ask themselves to move forward there? And the last thing is, where can they find your book?
Good, good. Okay. So the first one is, if I were talking to somebody new in the industry, what would I tell them?
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So, honestly, if they were new to the business, I would say not every client is for you, and you're not for every client. And once you sort of not force yourself, or really go after somebody that you may not be the best match for personality wise, or you're not an expert in the area that they're looking, it
Hmm.
becomes very stressful. And while you're stressed trying to help that person that is not the best fit, you are now missing out on perhaps two clients that would have come more naturally to you and that you were more of an expert in helping. And so I would say, I know that when we were first starting, you want to take every deal, and that's okay. You're going to learn from that. And then you're going to say, I had a gut feeling I was not going to be the best person for me and that they were not going to be my best client. That ruins your mindset. And
Yeah.
so once you can, start to pick and choose, or somebody refer a client who's not your best fit. Maybe their area is an hour away from you and you're not an expert on the schools, and refer them to somebody who is an expert, and do that. And then the second part, tell me again the second question.
The second question is, somebody that is a sort of a sophomore or a junior agent. They've been around a
Yes.
while and they are wanting to level up. They've been
Yes.
doing well, but they want to level up. Where should they start?
Thank you. With connection, because usually when we first start out, we're so busy in the weeds, learning everything, learning the contracts. How does the process go? What do I do next? How does closing go? Once you've gotten that under your belt and you know the ropes a little bit, start to get more business. You need to connect in your community. So what do you like to do? Do you like to play mahjong? Are you a book reader? Are you a tennis person? Do you love animals? What charity do you like? Start connecting with people out in your community, and just show up, and then start to have those conversations about their lives. And casually, you can throw in that you're a realtor, or you don't even have to.
Yeah.
If you post on social media and then you become friends with them, you don't even have to they see you and they'll bring it up when you're out in the community. So that's the I think connection. It's all about connection there. Yeah, and then finding my book there. It's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Books a Million, all those places. I love a local bookstore. You can go there and they'll order it for you. And on my website, if you buy the book and put in your invoice number, you can get a free masterclass and be part of a Facebook group where I answer questions and everything. So so liveinyourwheelhousebook.com is the best way to find the book.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate it. I've really enjoyed the conversation with you today. I've learned a lot, and I will make sure that all of the information on ways people can reach you are in the show notes for this podcast. And I hope that people, if they enjoy it, will share it with other people that it might be helpful to as well.
Wonderful. And if anyone has any questions, DM me on social media, Kim E. Costa, everywhere. I love talking to people.
Okay, that was a great conversation with Kim Costa. What I appreciate about Kim's story is that she did not build her business by chasing every possible client or copying what everyone else was doing. She built it by paying attention to her training, to her clients, to her own mistakes, and to the deeper truth behind people's decisions. That is the heart of the Trust the Truth method. When people feel safe, they tell the truth. When they tell the truth, you can actually help them. And when you have a process you trust, confidence starts to follow. Kim's story is also a reminder that some of the most valuable business lessons come from the moments that do not go according to plan. Saying no to Oprah might sound crazy on the surface, but for Kim, it became the beginning of a deeper message. Success has to fit the life you are actually trying to live. For the agent, leader, or sales professional listening today, here is the takeaway. Do not just ask, how do I get more business? Ask, what kind of trust am I building? Ask, what category am I creating? Ask, what process gives me control before I expect confidence? Because the professionals who last are not just good at closing transactions, they are good at helping people make decisions they do not regret. Thanks for listening to Time Tested Mastery Life Lesson Sell. If this episode helped you, share it with someone else who is trying to build a business with more trust, more clarity, and more staying power.